Hello everyone, part 121 here. Welcome to my channel, welcome to my YouTube channel, and welcome to the showcase of this build that I personally have called the Dark Paladin. The name, the Dark Paladin, the name of the build, comes from the fact that you are playing the Abyss Great Axe Artifact together with the Void Gauntlet, combined with 150 focus plus 20 outgoing healing effectiveness that will allow you to heal yourself during PvP. Why, if you ask, is because you use Orb of Decay. Using Orb of Decay, you have a second detonate. If you go until the last ability in the weapon tree, detonating orb, press the ability input again to detonate the orb with a 4-meter explosion radius. Depending on the orb's phase, the explosion will either damage enemies for 70% weapon damage and apply a stack of Disintegrate, or heal friendlies for 70% weapon damage. Using this ability will allow you to heal yourself. Let me just show you how much healing you can do with this build. Just look at this. Look at how much I'm healing myself just with one single Orb of Decay. Why be able to heal yourself in OPR? We all know when we play OPR, especially when we play solo, that we encounter scenarios, situations in which we don't have a healer. So I came up with this idea to be able to sustain myself. Of course, you're not going to be able to carry your team because it's a 20 versus 20 player game mode, but at least you will be able to sustain yourself. Why? Because let's say you're at sun, okay? So you just go in, you charge, let's say through the middle door, right? You do a gravity well, which I don't have, so I'm using the rip instead. You might as well excuse me, I'm sorry. So you do a gravity well, you do a spin, then you do 2 dodges, let's say you putrefy, you go back, and then you Orb of Decay, heal yourself, go out, pop a regen potion, and go to cover, and then you're able to do it again. Here you can see a different but live example of why being able to heal yourself can make the difference. I am taking a bit of damage, so I pop the Orb of Decay and I'm back to full HP. She's a Fire Staff Blunderbuss user, which we all know deals massive amounts of damage. Then I managed to CC him with the help of Gravity Well. Another Musket player helps out from behind. I take some damage from him and some other players. In the end, I survive and he dies. Now, because I did not use my potions, I still have them, and so I'm able to pop them and be back to full HP. Not to mention that if needed, I could have used the Orb of Decay to bring even more healing to the table again. Let's take in particular every element and every aspect of this build. You're going to be playing 300 int, 150 focus, and 150 constitution. It's your choice if you want to go for more focus or more constitution. I'm not sure which is the best, to have more focus as in more damage and more healing for yourself on the Void Gauntlet, or a little bit of more health. I would recommend to go full Void Harnessing on your build so far, on the Dark Paladin build, so far from my experience. I would recommend to go full Enchanted Word, Shirking Heals, and Void Harness. Shirking Heals, people argue if it's good or not in the meta right now. I personally consider it's good. Why? Because if you're a skilled player that knows when to time your dodges, you're still gonna get that health back exactly when you need it to escape. So for example, you're getting chased by a bow. You went inside sun, you fought 5 players, you remained 1 HP, and then you went outside, you're getting chased by a bow. If you time your dodge right, you're gonna get plus 2000 or plus 2500 or close to plus 3000, whatever that is, and use the Orb of Decay at the same time and be back to full health, or be at least alive and not dead. So that's why I would recommend to have Enchanted Word and Shirking Heals and Void Harness. Void Harnessing for the fact that you're playing 150 focus and you don't have that much damage output. Shirking Heals because it comes very useful to have Shirking Heals in a fight, together with the Orb, together with the lifesteal that you get out of the Abyss, together with the lifesteal that you get out of the Void Gauntlet. Enchanted Word. About Enchanted Word, to be honest with you guys, since the expansion started, I'm not sure if I'm just laying out my thoughts over here. I'm not sure if it's the best perk. If another perk, let's say Shirking Fortification, would be better. I haven't watched videos, I haven't watched percentages that show you if Enchanted Word is better in medium armor or light armor, or if it's not good at all in PvP, or if Shirking Heals is better in Shirking Fortification, sorry, is better in medium or light armor, or elemental aversion, or whatever else people are I don't know, researching, that would be better depending on your threshold and on your build and on your weapons. I chose to have Enchanted World. I think it's not a bad idea. You get minus 4% damage from light and heavy attacks. Why I think it's not a bad idea? Because you're using the gems Abyssal Physical World on this build. You're going to have less protection. Rune Glass gems, they give you 2% physical damage absorption and 2% void attack damage. If you go for normal Cut Pristine Onyx, they do 2.5. The Abyss, I have chosen on the Abyss Enchanted. I know it's not the best perk. It's not what you want to have. I upgraded my my artifact, the Abyss, when the game just started. I didn't think much about it. I just picked the perk, dropped it on there, and I was like, whatever, if I want to change it in the future, I'm gonna change it. What I would recommend on the Abyss is, of course, Maelstrom, if you want to go for Maelstrom, and then Weakening. Or if you don't want to go for that, either Rip, but you can have the Rip perk on your armor, let's say pants, instead of Diminishing Orb, which is something that I have, but there's no reason. I just bought them like that from the market. So either Maelstrom, either Rip, that you can also put on your armor. I wouldn't necessarily say it's needed on the Great Axe. Or you can also have, if you're playing Gravity Well, you can also have the perk for Gravity Well that heals you for the damage that Gravity Well deals, especially if you put it on the Great Axe. So on the weapon, it's going to heal you for around 70%. I would recommend those 3 perks. If not, let me know if you suggest something else. I'm open to discussion, of course. It's just what comes out of my mind that could be better. Then you would need a Void Gauntlet, one with Vicious Plague, Crits, and Putrefying Scream, and I would recommend having a second one if it's not a case of needing to play clumps, needing to apply heal reduction and disease. If there's no need to do that, I would recommend having a second Void Gauntlet for your build. It would be very helpful if you have a second Void Gauntlet with the perk that allows you to deal more damage against targets that have active crit. And then Vicious and Keen might be other 2 good perks, let's say. Maybe not Keen, but another perk just to lower the cost of your second Void Gauntlet. Keen could lower the cost because it's not such a required perk, and on the Void Gauntlet it's not such a bad idea to have the perk. Why? Because you have the cooldown reduction whenever you crit. Then you have to have the Ankh artifact. Why? Because you have Divine plus 10 health from all incoming healing effects, and then health plus 7 max health, which is very much needed since you're playing 150 con and not 200 con. When it comes to the third perk, I have Stamina Recovery, which also might not be the best choice. You have to decide on your own if this one is the one that suits you better, or one that gives you full cooldown refresh whenever you go below 50% health is the better one for you. But it's either Stamina Recovery or the one that gives you full cooldown refresh on your abilities when you go below 50% health. On your armor, you're going to have Enchanted Word, Shirking Heals, and Void Harnessing as much as possible. I, for example, have Refreshing on my heavy chest. I bought it for 10k coin from the market. It's just what I managed to gather, because we all know coin is not that easy to get in this game. Coin is also the reason why I delayed the presentation of this build so much, because I was playing non-stop trying to make coin so that I can make more builds and show you guys more content and show you more proper ways or fun ways or builds that you could play in OPR, for which I need coin. So we go Enchanted Word, Shirking Heals, Void Harnessing as much as possible. Then you use the Tumbler Feet Wraps as an artifact. I have Shirking Heals on my Tumbler Feet Wraps. I'm not sure if there would be a better perk, but also when I upgraded them, it was at the beginning of the game. I was not understanding why the game is not allowing me to add something like Shirking Fortification or anything. I think it's because of the physical aversion. At the moment when I upgraded them, it felt like it was the best option to add Shirking Heals, since I also already have Shirking Blessing. So why not add some extra Shirking Heals? If you guys have any suggestions regarding a better perk than Shirking Heals, since on the artifact you already have Shirking Blessing, I'm definitely open. The build is definitely not perfect and can be improved. Maybe Enchanted Word needs to be switched for a better perk like Shirking Fortification, let's say. Maybe Elemental Aversion is a better perk as well. Maybe you don't need that much damage reduction to survive in a clump. I haven't tested it out, but I do think you need armor as in Shirking Fortification or Enchanted Word to survive better in a clump. And if you're going to play the build as a frontline pusher in OPR, or even if you're going to play it in a war, who knows. And then I spec for ruby fire gems because, to be honest with you guys, I'm clueless why I don't feel that a bow player is killing me. Maybe it's because of enchanted word, but I don't feel like a bow player or a thrust player is actually destroying my life. So I felt like I was dying to fire, especially fireballs or pillar of fire in a clump. I just spec'd in some rubies to have more fire damage absorption, and it worked. And I haven't changed it since then. I don't feel like thrust damage range players like musket or bow players kill me that often. From time to time, like let's say I'm playing one OPR and I fight 10 to 15 clumps. Out of 10 to 15 clumps, I'm going to die to a bow or musket player. It's not going to be the decisive factor of my death. Usually the decisive factor of my death will be fire damage coming from fire stuff, someone surprising me behind my back, or just a clump cleave damage for which I use enchanted words to help me. This is the build, those are the attributes. On the ring, I went with focus, just to not have magnify, void damage party, which are definitely needed perks. You cannot make the build work without party or void damage. Why? Because you're not going to have enough damage, or because without party you're not going to have enough self-sustain as in dodges in a clump. Healing breeze is a random perk. I don't think it works. It says on heal for 6 seconds, heal target for 20% weapon damage each second. On the earring, I would definitely 100% recommend Purifying Toast. Why Purifying Toast and not the one that gives you Fortify or the one that gives you Empowering? Because in OPR and Arena, you can't even imagine the situations when you're going to be hit by a bow with bleed, with poison, and you just pop a regen potion and it's gone and you're full health and ready to fight. Then there is a counter argument towards this opinion, which is using on the Void Gauntlet, Cleansing Harvest. You have to play around with the build and see what you can sacrifice if you want to use Cleansing Harvest. So using Harvest Essence for 0.75 seconds removes one debuff, 3-second cooldown. This can be a very good perk during this meta and during this playstyle that is going on in PvP right now in New World. You just have to see what you want to sacrifice it for. So what you're going to sacrifice for using this perk. Also, for using this perk, I would recommend, if possible, taking Efficient Harvest as well. Harvest Essence health drain is reduced by 35%. I would very much appreciate any feedback on the skill tree of the weapons that you guys might have, because I have never been a Great Axe player for once. I have been a Void Content player and a Fire Staff and an Ice Content player, but never a Great Axe. So at least on the Great Axe, if there is something that you guys notice and can be improved or is a better choice, please let me know. You're definitely wanting this ultimate Void Color. This is a must to heal yourself, deal more damage. Whenever this ability procs, try to go for full DPS and full burst damage. Putrefying Scream for the stagger, Orb of Decay for the heal and for the burst damage, and combine with the Void Blade to get Void Color as fast as possible. Always 20-second cooldown on it. Putrefying Scream and Orb of Decay for the staggers and for the constant spam of damage and applying disease and burst damage, applying shield reduction and burst damage. That's why you want to go for Putrefying Scream, Orb of Decay and Void Blade, and not for Oblivion or for Essence Rupture or for Baleful Tether. You can adapt your build to go with Baleful Tether, then also add the perk on it that slows. Whenever you attach Baleful Tether to a target, it slows the target for whatever it is, 4 seconds or whatever, how much. On the Great Axe, I honestly am down to receive any feedback. I have tried Mauler's Fury and I have tried Bloodlust. Feel like Bloodlust has more potential for me right now, just because of that 20% faster. Even though Mauler's Fury grants more damage, I think it is. Grants a stacking 2% damage increase for 3 seconds, max 10 stacks, 30% more damage, so it grants more damage than the Bloodlust. It obligates me to play with a Great Axe in a clump or wherever I play, and that's not what I want to do. I want to go in between the weapons as much as possible to constantly apply disease and crowd control with Putrefying Scream, combined with Reap into a Maelstrom, for example. Then on the Great Axe, you have the option to play Reap or Gravity Well. Which one suits you more? I would say Gravity Well if you're more of a clump player. Reap if you're more chasing single targets. Reap has more utility when you're chasing, let's say, a bow Combined with the ultimate, of course, you have more chances on catching up to him, using Rip to stagger him. Especially if you use the Rip perk, which also slows him, you have more chances on securing the kill on that player, which has movement speed from his bow. Gravity Well on the other side has Fortify, applies Fortify. It's a very good clumsy tier. It's also a single target, decent enough crowd controller. If you just throw Gravity Well on a player, it's going to apply more crowd control than the Rip. Why? It's not going to stagger, even though it's a stagger meta, it's not going to stagger, but it's going to keep the player in place. Then Maelstrom is definitely a must. Why? Because it's a decent amount of damage, then you can use the perk Enfeebling Maelstrom. It applies Weaken when you use it, and you can very much use it, the Maelstrom, you can very much use it to create self-sustainability while using it, avoiding ranged attacks. Whenever you use Maelstrom, let me see, perform a fast spinning attack that pulls targets within a 2.5 meter radius closer to you, and Absorb consumes all projectiles while Maelstrom is active. This will help you a lot. You're going to create some survivability just by using the Maelstrom. If not using the Maelstrom, you might get hit by 3 bow players and a fireball at the same time and instantly die in such a situation. Then, coming to healing back once again, so just displaying the entire healing options that you have on the build and why it's called Dark Paladin. As said, you first have the full Shirking heals on your build. So whenever you dodge an attack, you get 2 point something plus health back. Then combining that with Orb of Decay, you get 10k HP, we showed that. Combining it with a regen potion, you also cleanse yourself. Combine it with a health potion. Combining it with this one, dodging while full mana heals you for 80% weapon damage, which will also give you another 1 to 2k HP. But let's just call it out of my head. 2.5k Shirking heals, 10k in total out of Orb of Decay, plus regen potion, plus health potion. Let's call it another 2.5k. That's 5k from Shirking heals plus using the health potion, 10k from the Orb of Decay, so 15k your entire full health. If you have 2 bruisers on your side and they have 4 bruisers, you might make the difference in winning that fight. Why? Because you're going to have a lot of stagger with Putrefying Scream, decent burst damage with Orb of Decay if you detonate it on them, and then the Void Gauntlet with its fast attacks from behind, the ultimate ability from the Void Gauntlet, Void Collar, on successful ability hit, gain a stack of Void Essence. At 6 stacks, consume all stacks and gain a 3 meter aura that heals stealth and friendlies for 30% weapon damage and deals 30% weapon damage per second to enemies within 5 seconds duration. So I would say this is about at least 500 damage. It's a dot of 500 damage that's going every other second, so a total of 2000 damage. And it's also healing. It's also healing your friendly. It's not going to be an insane amount of healing, but it's going to be a decent, say a minor health potion or half of a health potion that will help your teammates survive more in that clan. Okay, so let's say these 2 enemies right here, the dummies, are 2 bruisers, and then there's like 5 other enemies in a clump, and I see that, and I have 2 friendly bruisers also fighting them. What I would like to do to be at my best potential with this build is I would like to first engage with a Gravity Well, if I have one, to give a fortification towards my bruisers. If I don't play one, I would like to somehow position myself behind them. There's 2 choices. You can start off with directly Void Blade heavy attack. If you crit this, it does a lot of damage, as you can see. It does 3200, 4500 on these dummies. But let's say in a real situation in OPR, it's going to be against a well-geared player, it's going to be above 2500 damage, in between 2500 and 3000 damage, depending on their build, their perks and what. There's 2 possibilities. You can start with a heavy attack into Putrefying Scream, which also staggers. Staggers are very important right now in the game, and they have always been important, but only now have they actually reached their potential and people start realizing how much and how important staggers are in this game. Okay, so this is the first variant. Then the other variant might be you go Putrefying Scream into heavy attack if you have positioned yourself behind them. So 2 variants. You have 2 choices to engage. If you position yourself behind them, which is where you want to be, because you're not an actual bruiser, you're just helping the bruisers deal damage, win the fight, stagger and burst damage if needed. That's what you want to do with this build in a clump, particularly in a clump. So there's 2 options. You either engage directly with a heavy attack and then Putrefying Scream, or just Putrefying Scream into a heavy attack. Dodge, whatever. Orb of Decay detonate, that should at least be 7k damage. Instant 7k damage. Because you have Putrefying Scream that will deal 1000 at least in general. And you have the heavy attack, another 2700, that's 3700. And then Orb of Decay, which will detonate, and if it crits, it's going to deal, because it hits twice, it's going to deal at least another 3000 damage. So that's a burst of damage of 6000, which might make a player go down out of that clamp. At least one. Okay, this is the first engage that I'm showing you guys when you have positioned yourself behind enemies' lines or behind the clamp that you're targeting. The other option is, let's say you're in front of the clamp and you want to engage directly full front assault. What you want to do in this case, you either charge. The charge ability is the only escape ability that you have on this build, so you have to be very careful when you're using it, how you're using it, and why you're using it. But let's say you go full frontal assault in a clamp and then you just use charge, because you know you're going to survive, you have sacred ground below you, you see that you have healers and so on. You deal the attacks, of course, to get your empower, this one. Your damage is increased by 5%. You try to do some dodges, because you're of course going to be stunned or staggered or something. So you try to charge at the enemy clamp, do your attacks to get the empower, look around the fight, avoid getting staggered, and in exchange try to stagger your enemy with Rip, go full combo with Maelstrom, do another 2 attacks. You already have charge back because of refreshing move, so you're good to escape if needed, and switch to the Void Gauntlet, go on your Void Gauntlet combo, and then back and on and forth until someone dies. This is one option if you're playing Rip. The other option is you're playing Gravity Well. You're going to engage with the Gravity Well, of course, because you're going to want to pull your enemies together. The more together they are, the more cliff damage they take, the faster they will die. So I would say these are like 2 options of playstyle. One from engaging in the front, which will be with the Great Axe. One from engaging from the back, which will be with the Void Gauntlet. Why? Because you can also engage from the front with the Void Gauntlet or from the back with the Great Axe. But why you should not do it like that? If you engage with the Void Gauntlet from the front, if there's a massive amount of clamp of players, let's say at the entrance of Sun, and you are trying to block them from entering Sun, especially in those kind of situations, you want to engage with the Void Gauntlet, even if frontally engaging. Why? Because you're going to use Orb of Decay on them. And if Orb of Decay hits enough players, just the Orb of Decay will be enough to trigger your ultimate ability, the Void Collar, which remember is this ring that summons next to you and deals dot damage and heals your allies. In the right circumstances, in the right conditions, if the clump of player is big enough, using Orb of Decay will trigger your Void Collar ability, you will take out your Void Gauntlet, and in the right circumstances, immediately after, using Putrefying Scream will also make it so, because of the reduction that you have on Void Gauntlet, when you land a critical strike, will also make it so that you have instantly back Orb of Decay. Using Orb of Decay again will instantly trigger you back Putrefying Scream. So that's why you would like to engage with the Void Gauntlet frontally if the clump of player is big enough, because you can just constantly spam on them Orb of Decay, Putrefying Scream, Orb of Decay, Putrefying Scream. There's nothing they can do about it. If you don't get staggered, and if there's, let's say, 4 or 5 players in that clump, you should constantly get your Orb of Decay and Putrefying Scream so that you constantly deal massive amount of damage on them and stagger, which will be very important. Even if they play Freedom and they get out of your Putrefying Scream very fast, the stagger is very important to win a fight in a clamp. Plus the Orb of Decay burst of damage and, let's say, a heavy attack might make the difference in winning that fight or losing that fight. So if you frontally engage and there's 4 enemy players, 5 enemy players, it might be a good idea to go for Orb of Decay, take your sword out, do 2 attacks, use Putrefying Scream, then go back, or just constantly Orb of Decay into Putrefying Scream. That can also happen if the clump of player is big enough. That's a lot of stagger and burst damage constantly. More than you can deal with other weapons if you just heavy attack or use your abilities. That's the big advantage of this build. The fact that if the clump of players is big enough, Orb of Decay and Putrefying Scream will have literally 0 cooldown. That's why you're going to make the difference for your team to win the clamp fights, which are most necessary to be won for the game mode or for the team to win. Because Void Gauntlet does something that no other weapon in the game does at the moment. It has literally 0 cooldowns and massive burst amounts of damage, with staggers and crowd controls. Decent enough crowd controls if the players are not running freedom. Then, if you combine that with Black Crits and Putrefying Scream on your Void Gauntlet, Black Crits, critical strike against targets, inflict disease for 6 seconds, reducing healing effectiveness on the target by 26% and outgoing healing by 13%, plus Putrefying Scream. Putrefying Scream inflicts disease on hit, reducing the target's incoming healing by 43% and outgoing healing by 21% for 8 seconds. If you manage to combine this and sustain it in a clamp fight constantly, Putrefying Scream into Orb of Decay crit, the Orb of Decay can also crit, you're going to constantly apply killing disease on them, which will also help your team, your clamp, your friendlies win the clamp fight, because they will have less healing income and they will be constantly staggered, constantly have less healing income, and constantly damage bursted. You just saw those Orb of Decay dealing 2.5k. That's what they do in OPR as well against other players. Pretty much that's the showcase of the build. Really hoping that you can bring feedback on how to develop this build further and to make it stronger or better suit the needs even for a potential war build. Thank you for your time. If you manage to make such a build, hope you enjoy your playthrough. Hope you don't forget the fact that OPR is won by ground controlling, winning clamp fights and pushing the front line, not by staying behind and dealing massive amounts of damage with a fire staff, bow or musket. This is the reason why I came up with this build, why I'm showcasing it, why I'm promoting it and uploading track compilations and possible scenarios and situations in which you might want to do this or that, whatever, to win the fight, which I'm going to present further on. When it comes to the entire PvP section, I would like for players to think more about winning the game mode instead of thinking about I dealt 10k on that guy and I one-shotted him and I have, let's say, 7 kills with 0 deaths, but my team is losing 900 to 100 points. The purpose of this build is for you to help out your team, not for you to go and frag in the outer rims of sun or moon or star, in the forest or vegetation or whatever you want to call it, to frag your kills over there. The purpose of this build is for you to be a frontline useful player that can switch in between being a bruiser or a wannabe bruiser, a wannabe assassin in a clamp, a ground controlling player, a healer at the same time, a crowd controlling player at the same time, and I think that's pretty much it, right? Or a full assassin if needed against 1v1, which you can definitely do. Even against a fire staff blunderbuss, which we all know has an insane potential and insane amount of damage. Even against the bow, even against the musket, no matter what they're playing, I'm promising you that playing this build will 100% in time give you the chance of taking those 1v1s. Of course, you're going to have builds that will counter this build, like with any other build, like let's say Sword and Shield Spear. You're probably going to have a very difficult time fighting that build. Or let's say a full grit bruiser, so you're going to have a hard time fighting against that guy. Maybe a better time, and we'll have to test it out in the future. Maybe a better time if you get a perk that applies that deals more damage on your weapons when you're hitting a target that has active grit. Maybe with that you can win against a bruiser as well. Because else, I'm telling you guys, you cannot really win against a bruiser with this build. But that's not the purpose of the build. He's just gonna take out his hammer, he's gonna use a hammer heavy attacks and just chase you. And then there's nothing you can do. Like, you can 100% survive without problems, but trying to kill him in a full 1v1, it's going to be hard. Because you have to dodge enough and land enough attacks so that in time creates enough time for him to use a health potion and be back to full HP. Because of his damage reduction, more damage reduction that he has, and the massive amount of damage that he's going to deal with landing just one single heavy attack with the Warhammer on you. Okay, thank you for your time. Keep it tight, keep it nice. Have a nice time while playing New World. See you in the next video. Goodbye, Part 121 out.